The great hall of the Thalzari Palace was filled with bright lights and strange colors. Aliens of many shapes and sizes stood around, speaking in low voices. At the center of the hall stood Queen Saraxa, tall and proud, her blue skin shining under the glowing crystals. Today was important. Leaders from Earth had come to talk about peace and friendship between their worlds. Captain Elijah Rourke stood near the front. He was a human soldier, strong and calm, but tired. He had traveled far from Earth to protect the Queen. He knew the risks, but it was his duty. He watched the crowd carefully, his hand never far from his weapon. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the quiet. A quick, deadly movement. A figure moved fast toward the Queen, a long, shining blade raised high. The assassin's face was hidden by a mask, but their intent was clear. The blade was meant for Saraxa's heart. Elijah's body moved faster than he thought possible. Without thinking, he jumped forward and caught the blade in his own chest. Pain exploded through him, sharp and burning. He fell to the floor, blood spilling over the shining tiles. The hall fell silent. Everyone stared at the fallen soldier. Queen Saraxa dropped to her knees beside him. Her eyes were wide with shock and fear. "Hold on," she whispered. "You saved my life. Now your life belongs to me." The words were not just emotion, they were law. The Thalzari had an ancient tradition called the life debt. When someone saves the life of the Queen, she owes them everything: protection, loyalty, and more. It was a bond deeper than any treaty or promise. Elijah looked up at the Queen, surprised and confused. He never wanted this. He only acted to save her. But the crowd saw the promise in her eyes. The life debt was not just words. It was a sacred trust that could not be broken. Doctors rushed forward, lifting Elijah carefully. They moved him to a glowing machine that began to heal the deep wound. Around them, whispers grew louder. Some nobles were angry. They did not want a human to be so close to their queen. Others watched silently, waiting to see what would happen next. Queen Saraxa stood, her face strong again. "This man saved me," she said. "He is now my Bladetour, my protector, and my bond." Her voice echoed through the hall. Elijah's thoughts raced. What did this mean for him? Could he accept such a powerful link to an alien queen? Would he be trapped in a world he did not understand? As the lights dimmed and the crowd slowly left the hall, Elijah knew one thing for sure. His life had just changed forever. And this was only the beginning. Elijah woke slowly, feeling the warmth of soft lights around him. His body still ached, but the sharp pain from the blade was gone. He lay inside a strange, clear pod filled with a glowing blue liquid. The pod hummed quietly, helping his body heal. He tried to move, but a soft voice stopped him. "Rest, human, you are safe." Elijah looked to see Queen Saraxa standing beside the pod. Her blue skin shimmered and her eyes held a strange mix of respect and worry. He wanted to speak, but his throat felt dry. "I owe you my life," she said quietly. "By our tradition, you are now bound to me. You must stay." Elijah frowned. "I didn't do it for duty or politics," he said slowly. "I just acted to save you." Saraxa nodded. "I know, but our laws are clear. The life debt cannot be refused. It lasts for a lifetime and even beyond." Elijah's heart beat faster. What did she mean, beyond? He wanted to leave, go back to Earth. This was not the life he chose. A guard entered and bowed low. "The council awaits your presence, Bladetour." Elijah's eyes widened. Bladetour, the title meant protector of the Queen. He was now a symbol of honor and loyalty. The thought felt heavy. The pod opened, and Elijah stepped out. Carefully. His body was stronger, but his mind was full of questions. He followed the guard through the palace halls. The walls were tall and covered with glowing patterns that changed color. Aliens passed by, whispering and staring. Some looked afraid, others curious. At last, they reached a large room filled with the Queen's advisors. The air was thick with tension. Saraxa stood at the front, her posture proud and strong. One advisor, a tall alien with sharp eyes named Varric, spoke first. "This human, he saved the queen. Our laws bind her to him. But what of our people? Can we trust a human so close to the throne?" Elijah listened quietly. He knew he had to prove himself. Saraxa raised her hand. "He is not a prisoner. He is my bledtor. We must respect the life debt." The council murmured. Some nodded. Others looked unhappy. Elijah took a deep breath. "I am not here to cause trouble. I want to understand your people and protect the queen as best I can." Kathy, the young scholar priestess, stepped forward. Her eyes shone with intelligence and kindness. "If you seek knowledge, you must learn our ways. There are secrets and challenges ahead." Elijah met her gaze. "I'm ready." The queen smiled softly. "Then your journey begins now." As the council ended, Elijah felt the weight of his new role settle on his shoulders. The life debt was more than a tradition. It was a bond that tied his fate to Queen Saraxa and the future of the Thalzari people. He knew leaving would not be easy. But maybe, just maybe, this unexpected path held something more than he had ever imagined. Elijah had never seen a place like the Thalzari royal court. The walls were tall and smooth, shining with colors that changed as the light moved. Strange plants grew in glowing pots, and the air smelled faintly of something sweet and unfamiliar. The court was full of nobles, aliens with sharp eyes and proud faces. They wore bright robes and carried strange symbols of power. Many looked at Elijah with cold curiosity. A human among the Thalzari was rare, and some did not hide their dislike. Queen Saraxa stood at the center, calm and strong. She watched Elijah closely, as if waiting to see if he would break under the weight of their stare. Elijah kept his head high. He had come far, and he would not be afraid now. Kathy, the young scholar priestess, was the first to speak. "Elijah, you have much to learn. The court is filled with rules, and not all will welcome you. But you have shown courage already." Elijah nodded. "I want to understand your people. Teach me." Over the next days, Elijah met many of the nobles. Some ignored him. Others whispered behind his back. But one thing surprised him. His ideas and experience as a human soldier gained respect from some unexpected places. One morning, Kathy brought Elijah a small ancient book. "This is a riddle left by our ancestors. Only those with wisdom and patience can solve it. If you can, it will show that you belong here." Elijah studied the book. The riddle was strange and difficult, written in a language he did not know well. But he was determined. Late at night, he worked quietly, using his training to look for patterns and meaning. Slowly, the puzzle began to make sense. When he finally solved it, he brought the answer to Kathy. Her face lit up with surprise and approval. "You have done something few outsiders can," she said. "You have earned the respect of the court." The news spread quickly. Nobles who had doubted him now looked at Elijah with new eyes. Some approached him, asking questions and even sharing stories. But not all were happy. Varric, the sharp-eyed advisor from the council, watched Elijah with cold suspicion. He whispered to others, warning that the human could be dangerous. One day, during a meeting, Varric spoke openly. "This human may know much, but he is still an outsider. Our traditions cannot be bent for him. We must be careful." Queen Saraxa raised her hand to silence the room. "Elijah is my bledtor. He is bound to me by law and honor. We will not let fear divide us." Elijah felt a spark of hope. He knew the path would not be easy, but for the first time, he felt he belonged. As he walked through the glowing halls that evening, he looked up at the stars shining through the palace dome. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home. But here, in the heart of the Thalzari Empire, Elijah was becoming more than just a soldier. He was becoming part of something greater. Days passed since Elijah solved the riddle and gained some respect in the court. But the palace was a place of secrets and power, where not everyone welcomed change. Queen Syraxa called Elijah to a private chamber filled with soft lights and delicate alien flowers. The room smelled sweet, but the air was heavy with tension. "Elijah," Syraxa began, "you have done well. But there is more you must understand about the life debt. It is not only a bond of protection, it demands honor and sacrifice." Elijah looked at her carefully. "I want to know. Tell me." Syraxa's eyes darkened. "Some say the bond must be completed in full. This can mean many things: a warrior's challenge, a test of strength, or union." Elijah's heart quickened. "Union?" "Yes," Syraxa said softly. "In our tradition, the one who saves the queen must become part of her life fully, not just protector but partner. Some believe this is the only true way to repay the debt." Elijah swallowed. This was more than he had expected. "I do not want to force you," Syraxa added quickly. "But if we deny the bond, we risk dishonor. Our people may see it as a betrayal." Before Elijah could reply, a sharp knock came at the door. A guard entered and bowed. "The council will meet soon. There are those who question your place here." Elijah nodded and stood up. As he walked out with Syraxa, he felt eyes watching him, some filled with suspicion, others with hope. At the council, the room was cold and quiet. The nobles gathered, their faces serious. Varric, the sharp-eyed advisor, stood first. "This life debt is a sacred law," Varric said. "But this human is not of our kind. How can we trust him with the queen's safety and her heart?" Murmurs spread through the room. Some nodded in agreement. Syraxa raised her hand to silence them. "Elijah saved my life. He has earned his place. But the final choice is his." All eyes turned to Elijah. The weight of the moment pressed on him. Could he say yes? Could he stay bound to this alien, queen for life? Elijah looked at Syraxa, seeing strength and vulnerability in her eyes. "I will protect you," he said firmly. "But I need time to understand what this bond truly means." The council quieted. Syraxa smiled softly. "Time will be given, but know this. Our traditions run deep. You are not just a soldier anymore. You are part of the Thalzari." Later that night, Elijah walked alone through the palace gardens. The alien flowers glowed softly and distant stars shone above. He thought of Earth, of home. He thought of the life he left behind. But here, in this strange world, a new journey was beginning. One that would test his heart, his mind, and his honor. Elijah knew the price of honor was high, but so was the reward. Elijah tried to leave the palace, but every step was blocked. Not by guards, but by ceremony, custom, and a web of rules he did not understand. The life debt was like invisible chains made of gold, beautiful but binding. Each day, Queen Syraxa invited him to meetings, dinners, and rituals. He saw her not just as a ruler, but as a person who carried the weight of her people on her shoulders. Her strength amazed him. But Elijah also felt trapped. He wanted to return to Earth, to the life he once knew. Instead, he was pulled deeper into Thalzari politics and culture. One morning, a messenger arrived with urgent news. The queen's enemies had heard about the life debt. Some believed this bond made her weak, an easy target. Elijah listened, as Syraxa's advisors planned protection. "We cannot show weakness," she said. "If they think I am controlled by a human, they will attack." Elijah nodded. "Then we must act smart. We need to show strength and unity." Days later, during a public ceremony, Elijah stood beside Syraxa as she spoke to her people. The crowd was large and tense. Rumors had spread like wildfire. Suddenly, a group of masked attackers rushed the stage. Their weapons glowed with strange energy. Elijah reacted fast. Without hesitation, he pushed Syraxa behind him and raised his shield. The attackers moved quickly, but Elijah's human training made him faster. He dodged and blocked, protecting the queen. The palace guard soon joined the fight, and the attackers were pushed back. After the attack, the palace was quiet but on edge. Saraxa looked at Elijah with gratitude. "Again you saved me." Elijah smiled weakly. "It seems this debt is growing." That night, Saraxa spoke softly in Elijah's room. "Your presence has changed many things. Not all are happy, but I believe we can build something new." Elijah thought about the life debt. It was no longer a burden, but a responsibility he accepted. He looked out at the stars and whispered, "For you, Queen Saraxa, I will carry this debt as long as I live." Elijah sat quietly in the palace library, surrounded by tall shelves filled with glowing books and strange artifacts. The air was cool and smelled faintly of old paper and alien spices. Kathy, the young scholar priestess, stood nearby, watching him with curiosity. "You have told me little about your home," she said softly. "Tell me, human, what is Earth like?" Elijah smiled, happy to share something familiar. "Earth is a world of many stories. We have fought wars, but we have also built great cities, created art, and reached for the stars." Kathy's eyes sparkled with interest. "Tell me about your wars." Elijah nodded, choosing his words carefully. "We have faced terrible conflicts, brothers against brothers, nations fighting for power. But through it all, humans never lose hope. We rebuild and learn from our mistakes." He told her about Sarajevo, where people lived through destruction but never gave up. He spoke of Hiroshima, where pain was deep but the world chose peace afterward. He described the moon landing, a moment when humanity reached beyond its limits. Kathy listened, her face thoughtful. "Your people carry great pain and great courage. It is like our own history, long and difficult but full of strength." Elijah looked at her. "Yes. Sometimes we look into darkness but still find a way to shine." Saraxa entered quietly, standing beside them. She smiled. "Hearing your stories reminds me why I trust you, Elijah. You carry the spirit of survival and hope. That is what we need now." Elijah felt a warmth in his chest. For the first time, he felt connected not just by duty, but by understanding. Days passed, and Elijah continued to learn from the Thalzari. He studied their history and traditions, and they studied his. The two worlds began to bridge the gap between them. One evening, Kathy showed Elijah a small star map. "The galaxy is vast," she said, "but with courage and wisdom we can explore it together." Elijah nodded. Together. As the stars twinkled above the palace dome, Elijah realized that the life debt was no longer just a chain or burden. It was a promise between two very different worlds that could become stronger together. He looked at Saraxa and Kathy and knew this was only the beginning of a new story, one where humanity's hope would light the way in the dark reaches of space. Elijah had grown stronger in the palace, but he knew the dangers had not ended. The attack during the ceremony was only a warning. Enemies lurked in the shadows, watching and waiting. One evening, as the twin moons of Thalzari rose high, Elijah walked alone through the quiet corridors. The palace was beautiful, but silence brought a strange feeling. Something unseen was watching. Suddenly, a shadow moved quickly along the wall. Before Elijah could react, a small dart shot from the darkness, striking his neck. He felt a sharp sting, then dizziness. His legs weakened and the world blurred. When he opened his eyes, he was tied to a cold metal chair in a dim room. A hooded figure stood before him, voice low and cruel. "You are a threat to the Empire," the figure said. "Your bond with the Queen weakens us. We will end this life debt." Elijah struggled, but the ropes held tight. "Who are you?" The figure laughed softly. "I am one who knows the true cost of your presence. The Queen will pay dearly if you live." Elijah's mind raced. He needed a way out. He looked around and noticed a small glowing panel next to the chair. Using the last of his strength, he managed to reach it and press a button. Suddenly the door burst open. Saraxa and several guards rushed in, weapons ready. The hooded figure cursed and vanished into the shadows, leaving only silence behind. Saraxa untied Elijah quickly. "You are hurt. Why did you come alone?" Elijah shook his head. "I wanted to understand. But there are forces against us, stronger than I thought." The queen's eyes burned with determination. "Then we must stand together. This life debt is not just my burden. It is ours." The next day, the palace was alive with urgency. The attack had shaken everyone. Meetings were held, plans made. Elijah trained harder, preparing for what was to come. The life debt was no longer just tradition. It was a shield and a sword. In the quiet moments, he thought of Earth and the battles he had faced. This war was different, but his resolve was the same. Together with Saraxa and her people, Elijah was ready to face the darkness that threatened their worlds. The palace had never felt more tense. Guards stood at every corner, eyes sharp and alert. The people whispered about the shadow attack, fear growing like a dark cloud over the Thalzari Empire. Elijah trained harder than ever. His muscles ached, but his mind was sharper. He practiced with the palace guards, learning their fighting style and teaching them some of his own moves from Earth. One evening, as the twin moons lit the sky, Elijah was walking through the palace gardens. The glowing plants made strange shadows on the ground. Suddenly he heard a soft rustle behind him. He turned quickly, but no one was there. The feeling of being watched was strong. Elijah's hand moved to his weapon, but a voice whispered from the darkness, "Bledtor, you walk on thin ice." Elijah looked up to see Kathy stepping from the shadows, her face serious. "Who warned you?" Elijah asked, lowering his weapon slightly. Kathy shook her head. "I don't know, but the threat is closer than we think." That night, Elijah and Kathy met with Queen Saraxa in a secret chamber deep in the palace. The walls were covered with ancient symbols that glowed softly. "We must find the enemy," Saraxa said. "If they want to break our bond, they will. Try again. We cannot let fear win." Elijah nodded. "I will do whatever it takes." Kathy laid out a plan. "There is a hidden group in the city who do not trust outsiders. They may help us find the spies." Elijah agreed. The next day, he and Kathy went to the city's darker side, a place of narrow streets, bright markets, and whispers. They met with a group called the Shadows. They were quiet, skilled, and knew the city's secrets. Their leader, a woman, named Lise, looked at Elijah carefully. "Why should we help a human?" she asked. Elijah looked her in the eye. "Because if the queen falls, we all lose. We need each other." After hours of talking, Lise agreed to share what she knew. That night, Elijah and Kathy returned to the palace with new information. The enemy was closer than they thought, inside the palace walls. The life debt had become more than a bond. It was a test of trust, courage, and loyalty. Elijah looked at Saraxa and knew the fight was just beginning. The palace felt colder now. Every corridor, every room seemed to hold secrets and dangers. Elijah moved carefully, knowing the enemy might be watching. The life debt was no longer just a promise between him and Queen Saraxa. It was a shield against a growing darkness. Saraxa met with her council in a large chamber. Faces that once showed doubt now displayed concern. Varek, the sharp-eyed advisor who had once opposed Elijah, sat quietly, watching. "We must root out the traitors," Saraxa said firmly. "Their plans threaten not only the throne but the entire empire." Elijah stood beside her. "I've learned to fight in different ways. We need to use every skill, strength, wit, and trust." Varek finally spoke. "Trust is a luxury we cannot afford, but perhaps this human has earned his place." Elijah felt a small spark of hope. That night, Elijah and Kathy worked together to follow the threads of the hidden enemies. They found secret messages, meetings in shadowed places, and whispers of a coup. Elijah's training as a soldier helped him stay calm. He was used to danger, to enemies who hid behind lies. One evening, as he returned to his chambers, a figure stepped from the darkness. It was Lise, the leader of the Shadows. "I have news," she said urgently. The traitors plan to strike during the upcoming festival. They want to capture the queen and end the life debt. Elijah's eyes narrowed. We must prepare. The festival is the heart of the city. If they attack there, many will be in danger. Saraxa agreed. We will protect our people and show that the life debt is a strength, not a weakness. The festival began with music and color. The city streets filled with joy, but beneath the celebration, tension pulsed like a hidden drum. Elijah stood near Saraxa, ready. His hand never left his weapon. Suddenly, masked figures appeared from the crowd. They moved fast. Weapons, drawn. Elijah acted first. He pushed Saraxa behind a group of guards and faced the attackers. The fight was fierce. The attackers were skilled, but the palace guards, led by Elijah, fought back with determination. In the chaos, Elijah caught a glimpse of the hooded figure from before, directing the attack. With a shout, Elijah charged, catching the figure off guard. The attacker fell, defeated. The city erupted in cheers as the danger passed. The life debt had been tested and had not broken. Saraxa looked at Elijah with pride. You have proven that our bond is unbreakable. Elijah smiled. Together, we are stronger than any enemy. The city was calm again. The festival's colors still glowed under the stars, but the air was filled with a new sense of hope. The attack had failed, and the people believed in their queen and her human protector. Elijah stood beside Queen Saraxa on the palace balcony. Below them, the crowd cheered, celebrating their safety and strength. The bond between them was no longer just tradition. It was a symbol of unity between two worlds. Saraxa looked at Elijah, her eyes soft but serious. The life debt is more than protection. It is a promise of loyalty, trust, and future. Elijah nodded. I have learned much since I came here, about your people, your ways, and myself. This debt is no longer a chain. It is my choice. The queen reached out and took his hand. The touch was gentle but full of power. Then it is time to complete the bond. In the great hall, the nobles and the people gathered. The ceremony was ancient, full of light and music. Saraxa stood before the crowd, her voice strong and clear. Elijah, by saving my life, you have earned a place at my side. Will you accept this bond as protector, partner, and friend? Elijah stepped forward, feeling the eyes of everyone on him. His heart beat fast, but he spoke with calm confidence. I accept. For Saraxa, for her people, and for the future we will build together. The crowd erupted in cheers. Saraxa smiled and placed a glowing ring on Elijah's finger, a symbol of their bond, a promise sealed. From that moment, Elijah was no longer just a soldier from Earth. He was Bledtor, the human protector and partner of the Thalzari Queen. Together, they faced the future, stronger, united, and ready for whatever challenges the stars would bring.